Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Entertainment Headquarters, and welcome to another Television Chronicles with me and Mr. Tony of the Dead. And this one is quite an interesting choice. It was my choice again. Zoom on this beautiful face there, that's better. And it is for a show called The Terror.
Yep.
Now, The Terror is an anthology series, something similar to that of, say, American Horror Story. I believe the television network that does The Terror is it what's it called, AMC or something in America?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
AMC, yeah. So they did this anthology series. This was meant to be a one-off, but because it did quite well, uh, they decided to make it an anthology series, and they've done a second season of this show, which is called Infamy. And the third one is going to be called Devil in Silver, which is in production now. But the one we are here to talk about is the one that started it all, the very first The Terror television show. Now, the first season, it's based on the Royal Navy's polar explorer ship HMS Emirates and HMS Terror, having recently left Beechy Island in the Canadian Arctic archipelago, heading south towards King William Island into uncharted territory, seeking to find a confirmed existence and inevitably of the fabled Northwest Passage. The ships are soon frozen and trapped in the ice, and those aboard must survive the harsh weather conditions, each other while being stalked by an exclusive menace. So, Mr. Tony, when I first suggested this show, what did you think initially?
Well, I never heard of this before. I've heard of the movie The Terror, but it's nothing about that. I didn't even know this was an anthology till you said that, because I only watched the first season so far. But it's a very interesting show, especially now with the way it ended. I was like thinking, how does this have a second season? But
Yeah.
okay, I get it. But yeah, it was. I went into it without really knowing much about it. Didn't watch a trailer, like I said. Yeah, it was. I just went in and blind, so it was interesting.
Yeah, yeah. I remember when I first heard of the show, I had seen a trailer maybe on the television, and it really grabbed me interest. And then I did start watching it, but when I watched it, I didn't know if it was a show I'd get into because I thought it was a bit of a slow burn.
Yeah.
And I didn't know if I would connect with some of the characters, but eventually, through each episode, you got suckered in, and you kind of grew on us, and I generally by the end enjoyed it. So yeah, so the show itself, it stars George Harris as Captain Francis Crozer, Tobias Menzies as Commander James Fitzjames, Paul Ruddy as Dr. Harry Goodsir, and Sian Hins as Captain Franklin. And the show basically starts off where, you have this kind of title that basically explains that these ships, the Emirates and the Terror, set sail to find the Northwest Passage and were never seen again.
Yeah.
And then it basically starts off after that, if you're seeing the crew of the ships basically heading towards basically this cold, very white, stormy area into the Antarctic, into the unknown. And gradually you start getting introduced to different members of the crew. Of course, this is that the one on the left, he is Fitzpatrick, He is like the second in command, and then the other one is Franklin, who was like the main captain of the ship.
Yeah.
Yeah, is where there's three of them. And then you have, of course, Captain Francis Poser, who's next to them.
That picture's so fake.
Well, it's probably the promotional shot.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't think it's featured in the show. Because then
No.
if people thought that was an image from the show, they're like, it's fake, I'm not watching it.
No. They wouldn't be out in that cold with like that. They'd be totally bundled.
Yeah. So basically, these guys are the three main captains and like head honcho. You're all introduced to this character, who
Hickey.
Hickey with a dicky, and has
Yeah.
a liking for Dicky, should we say?
Yep.
And by the way, that is not why I wanted you to watch the show.
No, I didn't think so.
But Hickey is an interesting character. He, you know, I didn't know what they were going to do with that character. I was very surprised by the end.
Yeah, I started off liking him and then not liking him, you know.
Yes. And then you have this lady who I think she gets called, she's the nickname I like Lady Winter or something.
Is it Lady Silence?
Lady Silence, that's it.
Yeah.
Lady Silence. So she's like a native, obviously, of that land. She's an Eskimo lady. And the great thing I like about this show is the mixture of like real life events with fantasy and like supernatural elements. Because this is based on an event that really happened. Apparently, that's a real story about these two ships going off to find the Northwest Passage and, you know, being lost. That actually did happen.
Yeah.
But obviously, this is kind of a fantastical version of that tale and that story where they add like these urban legends from the Eskimos history as well into this. So basically, what happens? They get the set off to go in the middle of the Arctic, trying to trek through the ice and the waters. When suddenly the ships get stuck. They basically get stuck in the ice. They get hauled up, and they have no choice but to like make do with where they are and like ration out the food and attempt to, you know, make the best of a bad situation. And there's like this clash between Franklin and Koza's character, where Koza says we really should turn back while we can because we can't go further because we're going to end up getting stuck even more, and the more we're going deep, the more it's harder for it to get back out. But Franklin's like that determined because he wants to be the first to find this passage and this like crossing so they can, for monetary gain for the economy and be the person that found this, he will become famous. He doesn't want to, steer the course. He wants to continue, but at the same time, different events on the ship begin to happen. There's people, go out on the ice on patrol and they're attacked by this, what they believe is a polar bear.
Yeah.
You've also got the events where people start dying under mysterious circumstances. They're starting to cough up blood. They think it's some sort of disease like scurvy or something, but it's not that. It's revealed to be something else much later on. And then you've got the different relationships among the crew, like you say. You've got Hickey, who, he's really mysterious and he's also quite dangerous.
Yeah.
Or he becomes dangerous. And the whole story is the mystery of the crew and trying to unfold, like, the events that are transpiring.
Yeah. Because it was only supposed to be for like a year out, and like they would have been fine. But then being caught in the ice, because I'm so bad with everybody's names. All I remember is
Yeah.
Good Sir and
Good Sir is the doctor, the King Doctor, hence the name Good Sir.
yeah. I only remember his and Hickey but I know the characters what they did. It's just I'm so bad with the names. But the main cat like Crozier.
Crozier, Captain Crozier is the main captain.
Yeah,
Captain Franklin is like, well, Captain Franklin's the main, he's the head of the expedition. And
yeah.
Crozier's like his second in command, but he wasn't meant to be, I think, or he was chosen, but nobody really wanted him to be the first mate, Crozier. The all thought Fitzjames should have been the second in command, but Crozier got the job out of the fact that Crozier is dating somebody who is a relation to Franklin.
Yeah.
And
I guess it's his daughter.
It's his daughter, I'm assuming, or his niece.
Yeah.
And, because he's dating the niece, he allows him to, he gives him the position of second mate on the ship. But of course, no, Fitzjames doesn't really want him there and doesn't really want him to, doesn't believe he should be in that position. And he only got it because of his connections. But and Crozier as well, he's somebody who has like demons. He's been out on the ice before. He knows it's treacherous. He knows basically the terrors of the ice, and how it can make men go mad, and being stuck out at sea for such a long time. And I think one of the reasons that he's went out onto the ice is because it's like drawn him back in, because he went back to basic civilization, back to normality, after being kind of like on his own for so long, or being trapped at sea for so long. It was hard for him to socialize and get back in with society. And it's like even though he hasn't admitted it, he's kind of been driven back out there because of he feels more comfortable out there, even though he won't admit it.
Yeah.
And then you've got Hickey, who's he's a manipulator. He uses like his nice smile and his kind word to get information out to people, and he's scheming stuff. And then you've got Good Sir, the doctor, who just wants to help people. And, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, these people start getting killed, and they soon realize that this potentially isn't just a bear.
Yeah.
It could be something a lot bigger and a lot more dangerous. And one of the times that people are attacked, they do find Lady Silent and her dad is shot and brought back onto the Emirates, and they tried to save him, but the bullet's too deep and he unfortunately dies.
Yeah.
And she's absolutely devastated, and it's during after he's died and they've brought them on board that they notice that his tongue's been cut off. And it turns out, they find that very strange, and it's all connected to something that's going on.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And some of the great thing I like about this show, when we get deep into it, it's slow story building, but there's a lot of great effects and gore and there's scenes that make me feel very uncomfortable. Like there was one where literally the doctor's sitting there, someone's got frostbite, and the basically he's cutting his toes off.
Yeah.
I thought he was doing his nails, like his toenails, and then next thing you know, the toes come flying off.
Yeah. Like it's just like a regular thing. Like it's so cold there. Like, snip. It's like, oh my God.
And when the young boy died, there was a young boy, one in the bottom of the ship who was like just a crewman, who started coughing up blood and dies, and then you see the autopsy scene where they're basically cutting into his stomach, and you see the blood fly everywhere, and it's like that was a bit. Ugh.
Yeah. Just think how, like, for the time, how crude things were too. Like the one guy got when he was attacked. He like supposedly was still alive, but his brain is like being shown, and it's just like his head is just sitting open the whole time, and they just put a like cloth over top, like so you can't see it. It's like that thing's so infected, probably. You know.
He probably would have. The show was a bit exaggerated because he probably would have died within a day or two after that if your brain's exposed. And like you see, you would have got infections and all that. And
unless the cold, like, preserved it, I don't know.
Yeah,
but yeah, it is pretty far fetched.
Yeah. But basically, what happens next is basically this mysterious animal keeps attacking them after the initial attack where Lady Silence's dad's been killed. They Crozar and Franklin are nice to her, they're respectful, and they ask her questions how to get out of and how to find the passage and what's this thing that's attacking them, and she basically doesn't answer them or doesn't give them the answers that they want.
Yeah.
Suddenly there's explosions, or the ship starts rocking, and there being this creature's attacking the ship again. And it's during this time she escapes, and like she makes a camp and makes herself a tiny little igloo, not far from the two ships are still stranded. And this is where Crows and Franklin get into like a debate on Franklin wants them to continue, but Crows has like, we've come as far as we possibly can, we need to get back. This is too far. And this is where Franklin finally expresses his feelings about him as a man, and basically his relationship with his niece, and he's not who he expected him to be. And they have this falling out, and Crozar goes back to the Terror. He stays on the Emirates, and the next day they get these rats off the bottom of the ship, and they pile all the rats up, and they put them on these wires and set up like a trap for this bear. And Franklin goes to the camp where this has all been set up, just away from the ships, and gives them a shot of whiskey, I'm assuming, and has his photo taken with them, when suddenly they're attacked. And Franklin tries to escape, but then Franklin is actually mauled to death. And not only is he mauled to death, there was a tiny little hole that they had burned a hole in the ice with like this pot above it, where they were going to use I don't know what they were going to use it for, to bury fish or to put people down when they died. But this animal picks Franklin's body and drops him into the hole. And
that was the worst death to me.
Yeah, because he didn't just drop them into freezing cold water, because there was that pot that was boiling and had the flames in to burn. That falls down the hole. So when the monster thing, the animal, drops Franklin into the hole, he doesn't just sink straight into the. He actually landed on top of this boiling pot with all the flames, and he was actually burning as well as sinking into the water.
Yeah. Well, he didn't last very long in this show, because he's on the cover. I thought this guy's going to be here till the end, and he got taken out pretty easily. And that was, like I said, I think that was like the most horrific one for me, because I thought, like you said, he's burning, but like he's going to drown too. And that's the same hole they threw. They didn't have any respect for Lady Silence's father. They were like, oh, dig another hole for him, respect and everything for the people and everything. And they're like, yeah, the hell with that. And let's just throw him in the hole and get it over with. And they threw him down. And before, I think Good Sir was like the one was saying like, you should dig another hole. And then or somebody was saying it. And then they just threw him down, and it's like, oh shit. So
I think
disrespect toward the body and then shooting him.
Yeah. But I also think it was racist racist thing, though. It's like because he wasn't white, he wasn't British, he was, he was an Eskimo. They were like saying, right, we're not going to, dig a hole for him because he's not British or part of our crew. He's just a native, That's the mindset they had back then. So, like you say, that they burnt this hole in the ice and they just tossed his body down. But I found it hilarious, though. Franklin's body's basically sunk into this hole and down in it. But they managed to find his decapitated leg.
Yeah.
And so what did they do? Because they don't have his actual body, and this just shows you the difference that you've mentioned with Lady Silence's father, who they just tossed down this hole. They actually had this really nice casket, and they put the severed leg fully bandaged up like it was like the full body and put it into the casket and buried it.
Yeah.
And it was like they basically buried a leg.
Yeah. I mean, what amazes me is how they all stuck to being part of this crew, and like, I mean, eventually shit goes south, but like they just like took the orders this long. Like it seemed like ridiculous. And they had like they had canned food, but that's a whole nother thing about the canned food. But like it's crazy how like the long they lived on there. They even had the dog. There's a monkey, which I didn't like Good Sir for doing what he did to that monkey, but I just surprised there wasn't like a mutiny earlier.
Yeah. You didn't actually see what happened to the dogs either, did you? I can't remember.
No.
But basically,
well,
obviously,
Hickey killed the one. He said it hurt its leg crawling up the rocks, but like
you knew he had killed it because he's a psycho.
Yeah.
So basically, this is where everything starts to turn on its head. Because after Franklin's death, this is where things get more unhinged. And, basically the crew starts to kind of fall apart. Like I said, you had Crozar and Fitzjames, Captain Crozar, now First Officer Fitzjames, who now becomes the co-captain. They once again are fighting. There's like not a power struggle, but there's like Fitzjames doesn't believe that Crozar's good enough to, to run the ships and to get everyone safe. And then obviously because of the death of Franklin and probably the connection of him to his niece, to the person he loves, and the fact that they're stranded in this horrendous situation and he's getting, anxiety and depression. Of course, he starts hitting the bottle more and starts getting more and more intoxicated till the event that, like, a year's passed and he's basically a full-blown alcoholic.
Oh, yeah.
And as he's an alcoholic and the situation's getting more and more, serious, there's more mysterious deaths on the boat. People are just coughing up blood. This mysterious creature's continuing to attack people and kill people, and they all kind of decide, because they know that Lady Silent is near the ship. Why would you stay near the ship for? You would, if you've escaped, you would disappear and run away.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, she stayed.
Mm-hmm. And they saw her chanting. So they're thinking she had something to do with the whole attack.
Yeah, and there is a clip where she's in an Eskimo. Sorry, not Eskimo, that is what she is, sorry. In a what's it called, igloo. She's in that igloo, and you do see like the shadow of whatever it is out there, like around that igloo, but it doesn't invade the igloo or attack her. So that immediately makes you think, oh, she is connected to this thing. This is when, Hickey decide of his own volition without being ordered. He's going to bring Lady Silent back to the ship, but in force.
Yeah.
And because he did it so, disrespectfully, and him and Crozar get into this massive arguing, he then sentences to like 30 lashes, but not just 30, but 30 lashes is a boy. So if you're a man, you will get tied up like that and they will just whip you back. But if you're a young boy, obviously they bend you over a table and they whip your ass with
Yep.
like a long, like leather, I guess, strap
That
or
was like,
whatever.
I think that was like a Caddy Nine Tail thing, because that looked like it wasn't just like one like Indiana Jones whip. It was like several. So I think that
Yeah.
was Caddy Nine Tails. It was like he got 30. Everybody else got 10 lashes. He got 30 because he kept running his mouth.
Mm-hmm. Well, like
Because
you see,
he thought him and the captain were in because they had a drink once. He's like, we should remember that once. He's like, we had shared a drink once. Remember? He's like, yeah, you were holding a dog turd. like, yeah, I remember that,
yeah.
but who cares? He thought he was in
Well,
cahoots with him.
it's like he thought he was getting respect because obviously he does have like a secret affair with one of the crewmen, Hickey, and he gets spotted, but the commanding officer doesn't report it because he just doesn't want to deal with it. And so, at first I thought because of that, I thought, oh, they were going to make this Hickey a good guy. And I think that they did that purposely to throw you off it, to think, oh, he's going to get caught out and they're going to punish him for being a homosexual. Because back then it would have been frowned upon even more than it did like in the 80s and all that. But no, and then he thought he had this relationship with the captain, and you did feel sorry for Hickey at this point. But then he started to get more delusional, more manipulative, and trick people into giving him information. So he really turned into this spineless, horrible, deluded character.
Yeah.
And because of that, lady, Silence, Dr. Goodsey, because he's such a kind soul, tries to talk to her and is able to talk to her. And they discover that, through that the creature attacking them is some sort of mysterious spiritual being or spiritual entity to their kind of people called the Turback.
Yeah.
I think it's called the Turback. And it's like something that's drawn to them. They don't know how it's drawn to them, but her father had some sort of connection to the Turback, and which plays a part later on. And then as things progress, more people get more, Hickey gets more deluded. He starts to plan like a mutiny in the ship. The character of Fitz, who did I say? Fitz James. He throws a party at one point to try and get the morale up for everyone on the crew because other people are mysteriously dying and coughing up blood, which Dr. Goodsey then does discover. He figures out what the problem is. They've been dying slowly of lead poisoning.
Yep.
Because all of them canned foods that they're having, it's made of lead and it's not coated properly. So the food's actually killing them. And like you said, he did an experiment to see if it was the food in the cans because he feeds it to the monkey and the monkey dies.
Yeah.
Of lead poisoning, which is shit, but I can understand why he did it.
Yeah.
But then they decide to hide that from the crew. But then, of course, Hickey finds it out and uses that as leverage to get the crew to turn mutiny on the rest of the captain and the rest of the crew. And during this party that's being thrown, the Turback attacks again. And all hell breaks loose, and we also discover because Hickey had been mistreating Lady Silence, they then revealed the connection and how her father was able to control this ancient creature by he cut off his tongue and was able to like use chance or whatever to control it. But because he's been killed, this creature's just been going wild and killing the crew. So what Lady Silence decides to do, she decides to cut off her tongue and take control of the creature, but because she was mistreated by Hickey, she then turns the turback onto the crew. Gets retaliation for Hickey and probably the death of her father.
Yeah.
Which during that time where all the chaos in the party where people were getting their heads ripped off, there was fucking blood and guts flying. There were people hiding in tents, and Hickey and all that were trying to hide, and they were trying to cut open tent that accidentally slit someone's throat. I think when he opened the.
He was saying, stand back, I'm going to cut through. And then, like, nobody, he just stabbed through and he sliced up. And then there was, I don't know who the guy was on the other side. I forget who he was, but he killed him. He must have cut him up all the way up, and then he just fell over dead.
Yeah.
But, and the whole time, because of the fire, which was another horrific thing, was like the main doctor, I guess, must have went crazy. Yeah. And he started lighting everything. Like he started like putting like fluid and dumping the liquor out and stuff, and set everything on fire. And then he dumps it on himself, and then he sets himself on fire. And that's where everybody starts running, because he wanted. I think he basically wanted to tie them all in and kill them all.
Yeah.
And it didn't work out that way.
Yeah, he lost his ship, he lost his mind, which was so you never seen coming.
No,
because he was like so sensible and always sharp, always sensible, and so when Lady Silent is sending the turback after them, that's also happening at the same time. This doctor loses his shit and tries to kill people. So he set fire to the camp, and then at the same time, the turback hits the camp and starts fucking killing everyone. And then Hickey uses this as an opportunity to start the mutiny not long after, because the crew's basically been halved, and there's like half on Hickey's side and half on Koza's side.
Yeah.
And he takes stuff, and there's like a big battle between the two sides, but Hickey gets the advantage and disappears, and he takes Dr. Goodseer with him to basically cure his men. And it means like Koza's side don't have a doctor, and there's people dying, and there's the turback's still out there, and Lady Silver's disappeared. So not Silver, Silent has disappeared. But just to show you, this is the turback.
Yeah.
The turback is like a mixture. Look, it's like a bear, but it's got like a human face.
Yeah, it's really weird. I don't know if that was like, I thought at first that was supposed to be her father, and he came back as the turback, but it's really strange looking. Like it almost has, like you said, like a human face.
Mm-hmm.
But like I can't tell if it's like supposed to be somebody or if it's just supposed to be a creature. That was fucked up. Like
yeah. This is just some of the gore and some of the stuff that you see throughout the state of the show. And even him, the guy who's dead then, but he wasn't dead initially. He was the one that helped them like fight off the turback, where he climbed up the what's it called on the ship? Oh, my mind's went blank.
I don't know what that's called, but I know like up the
where the sails are kept. Yeah. He climbs up the sail and like up the, and he goes like to the crow's nest area, and the turback chases them, and they both kind of fall off the top of the ship into like.
That wasn't that guy. That was Blanky.
Oh, Blanky.
Yeah, Blanky was awesome.
Blanky's my favorite character.
Yeah. He climbed up that thing, and then because it's a bear, it's like you can't see it because of the snow and everything. And then like all of a sudden he could see it. Like he I can't remember what he did. But he was able to see it, and it was like right there. It's like, oh crap. So he kept climbing all the way up, and then finally they shot a cannon at it and hit it, and then he fell down, and they're like, oh, his leg is messed up because the thing got it. And then they had to cut the leg off. I thought he was dead, but he didn't. And then after that, he was kind of like fun. He was definitely a captain of a ship, that's for sure. He had the peg leg and everything.
That's
He wasn't
what
a
I was going to
captain, but
say.
still.
So yeah, that's another thing. It doesn't. That's the thing I love about the show. It doesn't hide from the graphicness. It's very grounded. Yes, I know it's like fantastical, but it's very graphic and grounded in the like natural real history of its time. So like after he's like stuck hanging, knocked out. After the
Yeah.
bear gets shot by a cannon, by the way, the turback gets shot by a cannon, and it still stands up and walks away. So they kind of knew that this wasn't just a natural animal, and that's why they put the dot together. It's like it's some sort of spirit animal or something.
Yeah.
But like you say, Blanky gets taken back to the doctor, and he's like talking of him, and next thing he's just cutting his leg off. He goes right off with the leg, and then the next he's walking around with a peg leg, and it's like, no, it doesn't even bother him. He's like, whatever.
Yeah. And he reveals later on how it's getting infected and stuff. So
yeah, so things start getting dire by the third act of the show, basically, where there's two camps. Hickey's just completely off the rails. Like, he's got half the crew. They've got no food. So he slowly starts killing odd people and then asking the doctor to cut them up, and they basically become cannibals, and they start cannibalizing each other, and it's just fucked up. On the other side, Croz's team, they're trying to wander off to try and find the way out of the Antarctic, and people are slowly dropping dead one by one. And Fitzjames, who was the first mate, he is just totally exhausted and has got no energy left and just knows he's not going to make it. So he basically euthanizes himself.
Yeah.
Which I didn't think he would go out that way. I was expecting him to I expected him to turn into the dick, if I'm honest.
Me too. He was very pompous.
He was pompous, and he was especially when Franklin died, it gave him all the excuse to turn into like the villain of the show. But that's why I think this worked better, and I was more shocked than I was Hickey, because you tried to make you sympathize with Hickey being like the secret gay guy on the crew getting sucked off down in the decks, secretly trying to have to hide who he is, to then being outspoken, thinking he's doing good for the crew, to being whipped 30 times, which then turned him into a complete dickhead and turned him into the villain, where the other one was always a pompous, arrogant, arsehole from the very get-go.
Yeah.
And he turned out to be just a really nice guy who just wanted to save people by the end, really, because it was his idea to maybe try and walk through the Arctic to find a place, to get them safe.
Yeah.
And he ends up euthanizing himself because he just can't go on any longer. And then the Turbacks chasing after them. So Blinky decides, guess what? I've got gangrene in the leg. Cut my leg off wasn't enough to save us. I'm going to distract the Turback. And so he sets out on his own and starts, trying to, lure the Turback to him. And on his travels, he actually sitting on the end of like a cliffside, Arctic like cliff, and he looks out of the ocean, and he's the one who discovers the passage, the midway passage. He actually discovers it, and he's smiling, and then you just hear the growling behind him, and he's like, it took your time, you bastard. And then
he had forks all over him. He had the forks tied up.
He had forks tied up, so he found the passage, but then it cuts to black when the Turback finds him and growling, and he's smiling. And obviously you can just assume he's been killed because you don't see him again. The next thing, after this, the final part of this is that basically Koza and his team are eventually outnumbered and taken by Hickey. Hickey's now just completely off the map. Dr. Godsey knows he's going to be used next and be cannibalized next. So he decides to poison himself.
Yep.
And put poison in his body, in his bloodstream. So when the crew decide to eat him, that poison would sink into them as well and, infect them. And the way Hickey went on with the murders and all that, and he's now delusional, and he's kind of figured out, because he was watching Lady Silence and how she was chanting and all, and he figures out that she's controlling the animal because she's now removed her tongue. And he believes if I do the same, I will have power over the creature, the turback, yeah. And the turback turns up the camp. There's fucking gunfire. There's blood splatters. There's people getting clawed to death left, right, and centre. There's people having their heads ripped off. And then Hickey's standing there, basically just about with his shirt off, half naked. He's chained up Koza and the men that the rest of his men, and he had put them in a line around the ship expecting the turback to attack them, but it didn't. It attacked his men because it's just a wild, crazy animal. And then he cuts his tongue off, looks up at the turback, expecting it to accept him, taking it in it, and just bites into his arm, picks him up, and basically tears him in two, which was, I fucking love that.
Yep. I kind of wish he had a slower death, but yeah, that was pretty. I kind of figured it's like when he's holding his tongue out in his hand of the thing, and it just kind of looks at it and how like the whole half of the arms like on. He's like, yeah, I was like, oh, okay.
I got confused at this part because Koza couldn't get a gun at anything, and it basically eats Hickey, and then the thing just turns over and tumbles over and dies.
I think it was choking on the men. He kept eating.
Yeah.
And I think with the men and the chain in its mouth, I think it got choked.
Yeah, and I was also wondering if because when it ate some of the men, if they had the poison in them, if it got poisoned. Because
it's possible.
Because it literally ate about 2 or 3 men, and then it grabbed onto his arm, ripped him up, picked him up in it, and put his full body, basically ripped him in two, and was chomping down on him, trying to get him down its throat. Then, like you said, it started choking and then just turned over and died.
Yeah. It was choking, and then it was trying to eat like another person, and then it was trying to eat Crozier, and then it just like it died. It started dying, and then
which I thought, because it had been the main threat throughout the show, I thought I was expecting it to have like a more ambitious death. I was expecting to get blown up or something, or with it having the chain, like wrapping the chain around its neck and maybe putting stones in a boat and throwing the boat off the top of a cliff with the chain wrapped around its neck, making it fall into the water and drown something, like the Alien Queen out of Alien versus Predator.
Like Voorhees too.
Yeah, and Jason Voorhees. I was expecting something like that to like, or if the long chain had a spike like the end of an anchor, like, and just flying the anchor at the top of its skull.
Yeah.
But there wouldn't have been enough people with enough energy or strength to lift an anchor up, just plow it into its head anyway.
Yeah. Or maybe even because there could have been like a weak spot in the ice. Maybe it would step in it and the chain would like try to pull him down too, or that would have been cool. Like, what if like Hickey, like somehow this thing started falling into the water, and then Hickey was like kind of in its mouth alive, and then like it just slowly went down into the water.
Yeah,
that would have been cool.
I just expected a bigger, more exciting death, since it was like the main threat throughout the show.
Yeah.
But how the show ends is basically Lady Silence and one of her Eskimo, I guess, people, they're trekking through, and suddenly one changes direction because he must realize the turback's killed. They must have had a sense that it died. So then she wanders off frantically to find it, and she finds like the base, and she finds Koza still chained to the chain. She ends up having to cut his hand off, takes him to her camp, where they basically cure him and build him back up. And you know, he's like, oh, where's Lady Silver? Sorry, Lady Silence. Don't know why I keep saying Silver.
I don't know. Maybe you got Karate Kid on the mind.
Maybe. But Lady Silence, and she's disappeared because now that Turback no longer exists. She's like, she decided to go away and like go on a quest or something because she needs to find, you know, a new purpose or something in life. But he's now with the Eskimos, and it goes back to what I said right at the beginning, where even though he wanted to be with Franklin's niece, there was always a part of him who loved the silence and loved, you know, being, you know, there was something that was drawing him back into the wilderness and back into open waters. And it was like a drug. It was so addictive. So he ended up with the Eskimos, and he ends up staying there with them. And eventually, as he's in the camp, another member, I guess it's somebody who, after the ship's been missing for nearly 2 years, there was an exploration. 4 years.
Yeah.
So after the ship's been missing 4 years, there was an expedition to try and find the mission ships. And a member of the crew actually arrives at this Eskimo camp, and he's hiding, Koza's hiding, and he's over listening to what's being said. And he basically tells the Eskimos to tell them that all the crew are lost and have died. So basically he wants to stay where he is, and he wants to live out the remainder of his life in being alone in the dark, in the snow, in the wilderness, just as his niece, who refused to marry him, said, you don't want to marry me, you want to be out there, you want to be in the dark, you want to live in the silence. And even I think Lady Silence predicted he would die alone in the darkness. So it was like a full circle moment.
Yeah. Yeah, because you know, it was like at the point when she found him, I thought he was dead. He looked dead.
Yeah.
And she couldn't get that chain off, which reminded me of like Fury Road, where he couldn't get the thing off of his hand. He was going to shoot it with the shotgun, but she cut his hand off. And yeah, it was like from the time they left to that point when he was like 2 years or so, and then it was 2 years later, and that's when you see the very beginning of the show at the very end, which was really. I like how they did that. Like, is one of these, because one thing we can say is that he could speak the language.
Yeah.
He could speak their language, and then eventually Good Sir was trying to write down the language.
He was trying
he was writing like a dictionary or whatever for it, and then eventually some of the others could speak it a little bit too. So he could speak it with them and everything. He blended right in. Like that was I also don't think he wanted to go back because she'd rejected him twice, and he's just like, a third one's she's just gonna reject me too. Like, because she said I can't marry a captain because of always being out and all that. So he said, like, I'll become captain and I'll be knighted and finding this, and then I could retire.
But she knew deep down that was never going to happen, because you always had this obsession with the ocean and being in the darkness and in the wilderness of you know, the open sea. And she always the niece always refused to marry him every time he asked, because she knew he would never be happy.
Yeah.
Even though he wouldn't admit to himself, he actually was addicted and loved being out in like the dark, in the wilderness, in the ocean, into the Antarctic. It was like so addictive to them. And even Lady, like you say, Lady Silence, even when they were talking at one point, actually said, you will die here. Because you actually want to die here, you want to be here.
Yeah.
And it's like, you was like, oh. So I just assume he's going to die. He's going to be one of the people who dies at the end, but he's actually the sole survivor. But
Yeah.
then instead, you had the opportunity of being rescued and went back to civilization, like I said, which I think he finds uncomfortable after being out on his own for so long,
Yeah.
that he remained like to stay like on his own, but with the Eskimo people, but like in this wilderness.
Yeah. Yeah, he was at peace. He didn't
Yeah.
want to go back.
Mm-hmm. So, in terms of the show, what's your overall thoughts? The good, the bad, and the ugly, Mister Tony of the Dead.
Well, I did like it. Like you said, it was a little slow. A lot of stuff going on. I mean, it's 10 episodes, and they're almost an hour long each. But it kind of goes by quick because it keeps your attention, I think. Like I said, liked Hickey at first. I felt bad for him, and then he just turned out to be like a jerk, like a complete jerk.
Yeah.
Good Sir was one of my favorite characters. Even till the end, he was kind of good. And there was the one part we didn't talk about is in the very beginning where they're like, oh, the ship was stuck, and they put the guy in like this kind of reminded me like the way the crew was and how things were like a little bit like Nautilus.
I forgot about that bit.
Yeah.
Where the propeller of the ships, well, not the propeller, they didn't have propellers then. It was like the steerer of the ship, like the tail end of the ship.
Yeah.
That would, what navigates them. That was like locked because it had
was
ice
like
trapped
ice
behind
stuck
it.
in it. Yeah. And they put him in that suit like the diver's suit from back then, and put him in the water, and he had to like get it out and everything. And here you see that it's bent, but while he's down there, he turns around. I thought there was going to be like a big shark or something behind him.
Yeah.
He turns around, and there's like this person out floating in the water, and it looks kind of like a creepy thing coming toward him. I think that was the guy that just drowned in the beginning.
Yeah, it was the guy who falls off the boat and
it freaked him out because it does kind of look like it's coming toward him, and he's like, "Ah, help me up!"
Well, they say if you know how cold the Antarctic water is, they say if you fall in there, you would actually freeze in a matter of seconds. Your heart would stop in seconds.
I believe it.
It's that cold. And so if you were floating in the water, your body would mean as it is, it would take years for your body to rot in water that cold. Like obviously if you go like to see where I'm going soon, San Diego, if I fucking fell in the sea there and drowned, that would be fucking, my body would just rot within a few days because of the heat in the water, and they'll have sharks and all tropical fish and crabs eating on us. But there's nothing much that lives in the Arctic waters that would be there to do that. So I could imagine in the Arctic, if there's ever been a boat sank, the amount of years it took for the bodies around them old ships to just
there's who knows what's out there, like that's like another like the ocean, like it's not much discovered because it's like so cold and stuff. And then like looking on here too with this show, it's the Erebus was discovered in 2014. A Terror was discovered intact and in incredibly good condition in 2016 by a Arctic research team, and there's a show on it. But like that's crazy that like they actually found those ships like and intact. Like that to me is creepy too. Like it's the same thing as like watching a video of the people going under the water into the Titanic. Mm-hmm. Like I want to watch this on these ships now because it's a real thing, but it's very scary. Very scary.
It's like but it just shows you how cold that ice must have been for so many years for the ships to still be intact.
Yeah, and they could. They were trying to cut through, and it was just too thick. They couldn't even make it. And it was mainly that first captain's fault because he didn't listen.
Franklin.
Yeah, he didn't listen.
Mm-hmm. And like you say, Koza was trying to save them.
Yeah.
So, in all, a good show. Is it something you would recommend?
Oh, now that I know it's an anthology, you know, it's pretty cool. I think the first season was a good one. Likable characters. It kept your interest. Like I was like, all right, what's going to happen next? You know. Yeah, I enjoyed it. So hopefully the second season. I've seen like it's not as good, but I heard people say it's not as good, but maybe. Your fan is very loud.
Can you still hear me, fan?
It sounds like you're like putting your toe up to it and grinding the toes.
Right. But
he's
yeah,
hot
I
as
enjoy
fuck, everybody. He's hot.
Not just good looking, I'm absolutely generally hot.
Yeah. His hair's on fire. Look, it's burning. It's orange.
But generally, honestly, I do love this show. It was a slow burn, but once I got into it, I just like what I love about it the most. I love how it's a mixture of historical facts meets fiction. And apparently that is when they decided to turn this into an anthology show. Apparently every season is going to be similar, where it's going to be based on a real life event, but they're going to hire in like the fictional elements to like make the show. So the second season will probably be based on an event, a historical event mixed in with fiction. The same with the third one. The second season we could always review at a later date, but of course you can always pick the next show for us to review, Mr. Tony, if you wish.
A show?
Yes.
Oh.
Make sure between 8 and 10 episodes long. I'm not doing like say Buffy the Vampire Slayer. That's like 10 seasons.
No.
We could do like a full series retrospective where we just talk about the highlights or the best part of the show. We could maybe do that.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, we won't be doing season 2 of The Bondsman because that is not coming out. I called it though, didn't I?
Yeah, and me and Anubis were doing Hysteria with Bruce Campbell, and we're doing the first. We're doing that, and we were going to do that episode to episode, but we ended up just giving up.
Is that still on, or did that get canceled?
It got cancelled after one season, and that ended on a cliffhanger, just the way The Bondsman did. See, normally I'm one of them now that I'm gonna wait till a season ends before I start watching it, because if I watch a show and it gets real good reviews or whatever, or if it's a show I'm in and I find out it gets cancelled after the first season, I've no point watching it.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah.
Because it's like, what if you like a show and you're not getting, the answers, for what you want?
Yeah.
But yeah, the Terror season 1 for me was great. I really enjoyed it. If I had to rate the Terror out of 10, I'd probably give it probably a 7 out of 10.
Because that's what I would say too.
Yeah, I think the negatives for me is it is a slow burn, and if you don't get into it from the beginning, you're probably not going to continue watching it. But I do enjoy it.
Yeah.
The cast were brilliant. The characters were brilliant. The effects were brilliant. The gore, the unexpected, gore, like people getting their legs amputated. Like I say, what shocked me is I thought when he was standing there and he had I thought it was like nail clippers and he was clipping the nails, but it wasn't. It was just literally bong and his toes are flying off. And he wasn't even squinting or making any noise in pain because he had no feeling in his feet.
Yeah.
And that for me is what scared me. Like, oh my God, how bad must that be?
Yeah.
Because you know what it's like if you were like, say, walk into the bedroom and you stump your toe off the side of the bed, you're like, it hurts like hell.
Yeah.
So imagine getting your toe cut off, but the fact that he had no feeling showed you just how bad that was.
Well, I could tell you this. I had growing up, I had ingrown toenails, and I used to have to go and get them clipped, and the pressure alone was like hell. One time they did, and the needle to numb my toe hurt too. But the one time they didn't numb it enough, and the thing that they stick under my nail to take my nail off, I felt it to go on, starting to go under, and I went, I feel that, I felt that, I feel that. So that alone was like wanting to like rip the armchair off. I can't even
Oh,
imagine. I know they're frozen and they can't feel it, but like stubbing your toe hurts enough. I can't even imagine. Oh God.
yeah.
And that's another thing with this show too, that I felt like it was believable that the crew was starting to like get worse and worse and worse. Their face started getting like black marks from the frostbite
Yeah, they were
and
losing
all that
weight.
stuff,
They look
losing weight.
gaunt in the face, and
Especially the guy that Hickey was fooling around with.
mhm.
He looked like he hasn't eaten in like he looked legit like he was starving. Like
Mhm.
I totally believed it, and it's probably just makeup and stuff. I don't think it was CGI on him.
No,
The
no.
bear is obviously CGI. I think that's the one thing. It looked pretty fake, but it's still pretty ferocious.
Yeah.
Oh, and that's
But
one thing Good Sir told him too, because he said that Hickey's gonna make him eat with them, and he's like, deny it, and if he still insists, eat the heel off my foot because it'll be tough and no nothing will be down there. So that's what he
because
does.
yeah, because he swallowed poison, knowing that he was going to be the next one to be caramelized. So he knew if he drank the poison, if once he died, the poison would be in his bloodstream. So anything they ate off his body would be contaminated.
Hmm.
So obviously that was good that he made that suggestion to Koza.
Yeah.
But like you say, I like the whole story. I liked how, like I said before, it mixed fiction with reality, with real life of it. But I also like how it also threw in like Eskimo mythology, because the turback I read up is like it's a real legend as well. It's actually a real thing.
Yeah.
So it's actually based on something. So I like the fact that they did that as well.
Yeah.
So it's nice when they can do that. But yeah, good show. What's coming up on Mr. Tony of the Dead's channel?
Nothing, just ghouls. We're gonna be recording that today. I actually have to finish the other movie yet. um, I kind of like I don't know why I lost track of time with this. I thought this show I had a plan where I thought this show was 8 episodes and it was actually 10. So like I
Yeah.
lost like 2 hours. So now I have to kind of like make it up a little bit. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we're gonna be recording that, and that's about it. Nothing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really do anything else on the channel
Well,
except that.
yeah. Well, you pick the next show for us to watch, because
Okay.
because that'll be good, because this will be your my thing, the television chronicles. Anubis gets enough time on this channel. But
Yeah.
yeah. So as for me in the entertainment headquarters later today, well, probably in half an hour, I'm gonna go live with my own Predator Killers review. I was gonna have Mr. Daniel Miller on, but he decided he's too busy, he doesn't have time to do it. So I'm going solo for that war. And then I know coming up we do have, I think it's Sunday, and is it Sunday the 22nd? It might be soon, I can't remember what day it is. But we've got the Karate Kid special on the Retro Classic Movie Show coming up. And then after that, I'll be taking a short break to fly out to San Diego and have fun in the sun and a few bevies. And you never know, a few fights along the way.
Oh yeah. I'd
But
like to see
anyway,
you in a fight.
But anyway, this has been the entertainment headquarters. This has been Television Chronicles. This has been Mr. Tony the Dead. We'll catch us all at the next one.